Hey everybody, Guy here from Chit Chat. Thanks so much for listening. We love that you're here. I just got done filming a really fun podcast with my new downtown Fred, Chad. Chad opened a really cool business, just like literally a block down the street in the old trade home, called O'Brien Dry Goods. Lots of cool vintage stuff. Yeah, you can hear a little bit more about it in the podcast to come, but more than anything, you should go and see it and go see what he did in that building. It's really, really fun. I'm thankful, as we should all be thankful, just that there are continuing to be people that show up in our downtown and do really, really good work. So thanks again, seriously, for continuing to listen. Thanks for supporting conversations like this of people talking about our town. I hope that this, in part, is an encouragement to you as well to be having good conversations about our people and about our town. Yeah, so if you're in St. Cloud, thanks for listening. And if you're outside of St. Cloud and you just enjoy content about small business owners and stuff like this, we're really thankful that you're here. Thanks, everybody. Chad, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, Chad, you and I met years ago at a little photo shoot.
Yes.
I think there was a trampoline involved for great theater.
Sweaty trampoline involved. Yep. I was dressed. We were dressed like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang characters.
Yeah, that was good.
And you had us jump on a trampoline for way too long.
Way too long.
Yeah.
But we had to get the
really
shot.
Tired.
Yeah. That photo campaign turned out so cool.
It
for
was
great.
really cool. It was really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, sweet. Chad, will you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're up to downtown.
Sure.
As you know, because you and I have talked a bunch, but I love our downtown. I want to see our downtown continue to grow, and we need people to keep coming downtown, doing cool things, taking old buildings and making them nice. So I just love that. Would you just tell us a little bit about your building, what you're up to? And
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So my name's Chad O'Brien. I've been in St. Cloud about 25 years. Was in banking for a long time and then just decided it was time for a change. I have been an avid collector of all things vintage and cool. I love vintage clothes especially, and decided that I wanted to open up a store, an antique and vintage store. Was really dedicated to having it be downtown. It was really important to me. And so about 2 years ago, we started looking for properties and finally ended up on a building. We're on a 611, so we're just up the street from here. 611 West St. Germain. We opened a store called O'Brien's Dry Goods. We're an antique and vintage market. We have vendor space, and then I sell items out of there. We do some commission items out of there. And we bought the building, and so we've got 2 apartments above that we're renovating right now. And yeah, that's where we're at right now with downtown St. Cloud.
that's cool. Remind me, was it Trade Home? Is that what's in the tile?
Yeah. Yep. So the building was built in the 1880s, and it originally was a shoe store.
This building that we're in, which
Yeah.
feels super old, was
Yep.
built in 1900.
Right.
Your building stood for 20 years before
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, and if you go in the basement, it looks like this, but less put together.
Okay.
It's more chunks of rocks
Okay.
than this. Yeah. Yeah. So
The technology improvements of 20 years.
Such the improvements. Yeah. So built in 1880 and was a shoe store for over 100 years. And in the 50s, Trade
Do you
Home
have
went
shoes in there?
I do.
So
I
it-
do.
I mean,
Exactly.
keep the tradition alive.
Yep. I have part of the original Trade Home sign from the outside of the building in there, and I have some advertisements for some shoes. And then in the plaster on the back walls, we have where in the 1950s, some of the sales guys in the back room wrote, "Make sure you sold a Jarman shoe," and so we kept that. That's on the wall too. So. Yeah, so it's a shoe store for a really long time, and then it sat empty. Before we bought it, it sat empty for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Felt like 15.
Yeah.
Felt like a lot. Felt like it was empty for a really, really, really long time.
The damage on the inside of the building looks like 15,
Yeah.
just so you know. Looked. It's fixed now.
The work that you guys have done is really, really, really great. You guys, if you're listening and you're in the St. Cloud area, you should go in for sure. For 100 reasons, you should go see what they've done in there. But it still feels like a cool old building. They didn't just like shellac it and make it feel like, some brand new modern build. They just did really tasteful kind of updates and restored things to look really cool. I think the floor in there, how you guys kind of handled that old antique floor is really, really fun too.
Well, that's one of the nice things about our business is that bringing it all the way back and making it shiny and new isn't needed, and it's not really doesn't even fit. Having it be a little rough is exactly what we want. I
Yeah.
mean, our original tin ceilings, some of them are a little rough. It doesn't matter to me, like, and the shoppers, they don't
No.
care. They want it like
Yep.
that. And so that actually lends really well for businesses like mine to be moving into properties downtown, because, some of these properties that I've been in, if you want to make them amazing office buildings, you can, but it's not financially feasible to do that.
Yeah,
And
the amount of money you would need to sink into something.
And when I just need to go in and gut it out and get back to all the old, it makes it a lot easier to do that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. For sure, our vintage of entrepreneur and business owner, building owner, it feels like there's a lot more of that willingness to like not shellac something
Right.
than maybe in the past. It feels like when you either acquire or walk into, just when you walk into buildings that were built when these buildings were built, but they had massive renovations done, say in like the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
It was like the actual building itself was a problem that needed to be solved.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Our upstairs apartments, and I don't know when you were in them, but the upstairs apartments, when we bought them, they had, the ugly drop ceiling
All of it.
tiles.
All of it.
And there was 3 feet of empty space above. I mean, our main floor had drop ceilings down 4 feet that were covering up original 1880s tin ceilings. And so I really do think that there was a time where, it was like, let's bring this up to looking all brand new.
Yeah.
And you could still see that on buildings downtown where even the facades were brought all the way up to brand new. And that's really tough. So mine's kind of a mix, because the really cool windows that we have at our store, those are new.
Yeah.
New, I mean, 1960s new, if you want to call that new. But
In comparison to your building.
in comparison to the building. And
new.
right. So there was original conversations around, hey, should I
push them
out? And then what I've learned now is, no way am I getting rid of those windows. They give us the ability for people to shop when we're closed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are out there all day, every day, looking at the windows, and we switch things out, and it gives us so much more retail space. And I think that is a nice nod to that 1950s and 60s downtown St. Cloud, because it really was so much busier. It was a window shop.
Yeah. So there's a lot. So what you're doing right now, it feels like there's a lot of that thing of like when people are acquiring buildings, they're asking the question of like, how do we let some of the original character here stay and shine?
Yeah.
We just acknowledge that looking back, whatever was happening in maybe like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was just like cover up all of these problems. And now from our vantage point, we look backwards and we say, we think it's a little bit problematic that they did that. I wonder, like, what will change in the next 20, 30, 40 years? And will aesthetics change and ideas, and will the ethos around how to, like, preserve downtown, will it change again? And they'll look back at people like you and they're like, man, he left that tin ceiling. Like, doesn't he know that whatever the new drop ceiling is, it's inexpensive, and you can just make that thing go away. And then will all of that stuff that we kind of think is ugly now, will all of that come back in again?
Right. Yeah. So, and hopefully, the current person in me that wants to agree that we're probably in the right spot right now, but of course that's going to change. Is so we're not. The nice thing about my building is when we did all of the work, there was very little construction work. It was mostly just take everything out that's been done. And so if in 30 years somebody's like, hey, we need to do something different, then they can just add on to the empty hole that I made. That's I think that's a good thing. One of the things that it makes me think about when you talk about that is, I've been in buildings and looking at buildings recently where it's all like stripped fluorescent lights, like from the 70s and 80s, and it just makes my stomach churn. I hate that color. I hate the way it feels.
Yeah.
But it was everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. And I like the yellow. We redid all the electrical in our building and put in the right color that we wanted and everything. And it can make a huge difference. And maybe somebody's, in 20 years is going to be like, oh, I hate that color.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a new color. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting that the conversation we're having is about like the aesthetic really of a building
Yeah.
and how those things have changed. And the things that you have now put into that building are also inside of that same conversation.
Yeah.
The styles and the fashions from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s,
Yep.
you can even see things change there. And I think the reason that your store is so fun is because they're not what we're into today. And so you get this like
Right.
kind of like blast from the past inside your store with the actual things that you have curated and put in there.
Yeah, yeah, it's been really fun to see people come in because do we have traditional antiques? Absolutely, we have some of those vendors. Do we have clothes from the 30s all the way up until like 90s and 2000s stuff? Yeah, we have all of that. People come in looking for we have toys from when you and I were kids. We've got vendors that just deal with that. We got video games in there. We've got so many different things in the store. And it's fun to see people. One of our favorite things is when we're at the front of the store working the counter, and as somebody walks back, you hear kind of a screech of like, "Oh my gosh, look at this! Oh my gosh, they have that!
I forgot!
Yeah. We actually have, we have vendors in the store, and one of our vendors, their booth name is I Had That. And they deal in toys. And so it's really fun to kind of curate those type of items for people.
That's really fun. Do you have a favorite kind of object? Like when you're thinking about the stuff that you want to put in the store, is there a favorite kind of thing that you love to bring in, either because it kind of is what you love or what you care about, or it's the kind of thing that makes people like really, really excited to see it?
Yeah. So that's easy for me because I love all kinds of vintage and antique stuff. I love clothes. I love old clothes, and I love finding them. And as I've collected more and curated for the store more, the things that I like get older and older. I like older stuff.
Yeah.
There's like genres of vintage clothing. There's like 90s and Y2K, which is not stuff that we stock a whole lot in the store. There's
Not yet.
Yeah.
10 years from now.
10 years from now, yeah, we'll have to stock it, right? But there's other places in town that do a really good job of having that stuff. And then I really love 80s, kind of the stuff that, when I was a kid growing up. And some of the stuff that I'm doing now is 70s and 60s. And so whether it's we just got a bunch of 1984 Prince T-shirts in the store that are just amazing, or I like old Pendleton stuff, and Filson stuff like that.
Two of my favorite like old classic brands.
I really love finding that stuff and bringing it back. And so clothes are my big thing. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. What you said about how your taste is getting older and older and older. In the same way, I mean, a handful of years ago, I got into watches.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really love watches. And the first watch that I went and bought, that was, like when you kind of get into watches, you aren't sure about like how much money should I be spending on this, and so there's a little bit of that thing you're kind of trying to figure out. But you want a mechanical watch. You're thinking about what a mechanical watch is, like a real watch,
right?
And then you're thinking, man, a company that's in Switzerland, and I think a lot of people end up with Tissot.
Yeah.
And then you're looking, and the first watch I bought was maybe a couple or a few $100s, which felt like a ton because I never spent anything like that before. But I mean, Tissot is a great watch brand, but they're big, right? I mean, I loved it because it was my first watch, and like as I kind of walked into this like new thing, and then the more you learn about watches, the deeper you get into it. At least for me, anyway, my taste kept getting older and older, and then subsequently smaller.
Yeah.
And the watch I have on today is one of my biggest watches, and even in comparison to a lot of the watches that are sold today, like if you think of like Fossil watches and stuff like that,
they're huge,
they're
right?
giant.
Get
They're
sick of them,
absolutely giant.
Yeah.
And because that's a man's watch,
right. You need to like show it off.
Yeah. But if you look back at like, again, the 50s and the 60s, these really beautiful, elegant, small little men's classic watches. That thing has just become my absolute favorite.
I love a good, 50s Bulova gold watch.
Yeah.
That's so small. I have a couple of them too that are so small that they just feel like almost like a women's watch. But you're like, it doesn't matter to me. I think they're great.
Beautiful and elegant.
Yeah, my watch journey is almost identical. Yeah, I think my first watch was a Citizen Nighthawk or something. It's pretty big, and then now I'm on to it's a pretty small 90s, 90s Omega. It's perfect for me.
Where did you get your 90s Omega?
DJ Bitson.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I have my oldest, maybe it's my favorite, it's one of my favorite watches, but my oldest watch is a 1966 Omega.
Sure.
And Brian Woolman, past guest,
Talked to him on the phone yesterday.
Did you really? Hi, Brian.
Yeah. He was looking for something. He called me.
Yeah.
I curate things for people all the time.
That's great. And I had showed one time, I had flipping through an Omega book, and I showed him this beautiful old, like, classic Seamaster from the 60s.
Yeah.
And one time in this book, I just thumbed through, I was like, that is like a grail watch for me. I dream about someday having that watch. And he was at a thrift store or a pawn shop, because he's a pawn junkie.
Right.
And he's freaking out. He's like, your watch is here. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, your watch, that watch that you showed me, that Omega, it's here. And sure enough, he saw that watch. He remembered it because buds.
Right.
And I went and bought this beautiful old classic watch.
That's awesome.
Buying a watch from the 60s at a pawn shop, not terribly recommended.
No,
But this one happened
it's
to work out.
It's a labor of love. It's like buying a classic car, right?
Yeah.
You expect it to not be great.
I did need to take it instantly in to get serviced.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But beautiful and small and elegant and really, really fun.
Yeah. So you touched on something that I really wanted to talk about, because I didn't believe it was going to be part of the store and what we did, but it's turned into that, is curating for people, is finding things for people. It's somebody coming in and saying, oh, hey, I'm looking for this one thing. Yeah. So probably some of your guests like that have been on, but so when's this going to air?
Soon.
Okay. So somebody from downtown St. Cloud, so I'll have to be vague. Somebody from downtown St. Cloud came in and said, hey, my daughter's birthday's coming up. You know what she really wants? And this was just in general conversation. She really wants this thing from when she was 12, And I said, I don't have that thing.
Yeah.
And 3 days later, I delivered it to her office in a bag. You know what I mean? Like, so that it's so fun to be able to do that and to show up that way for people. Or another, Hannah had her wedding recently, and so she needed a cake plate for her wedding. And so I gave her 5 different options. She wanted a vintage cake plate, so we found, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's a really, really fun way to show up for individuals. Yeah. That's been great.
That's really, really cool. I mean, you kind of did that for me too. I wanted to buy my business partner Ryan a really fun old Apollo high school vintage from like when we were in high school hoodie. And when I went in that day, you had one, but it was like a 2XL. It was something big. And I was like, well, my guy's gonna need a smaller one, and you sourced it and found it. And
Yeah.
That was really fun. Really fun.
Sure. Story is the driving force for us here at Switchboard. Story is also the reason that Chit Chat exists. We tell stories of the people around us through photos, videos, branding, and websites. Story helps us find meaning, and it draws a community together, and we would love to help tell your story. You can find us at www.switchboard.mn. We would love to meet you. We'd love to talk with you and learn more about the story that you are trying to tell and how our story-driven marketing tools can help you communicate better. Can't wait to talk to you soon.
So I know that your store is new.
Yeah.
I mean, you just
6 weeks.
Yeah, month or two. What do you think? What is the future of a store like that? What do you hope to do with it? How do you hope to continue to impact downtown? What do you hope to be a part of in relationship to our business community with your business?
I think as far as our store right now, it's a catalyst for our area of downtown where we sit. We sit right next to Books Revisited, which is a staple, been around forever. I hope that as we see downtown grow, that we're just doing our part, right? Because it's stores like ours that get the foot traffic in. I mean, you can come down. So Sundays are our second busiest day of the week. We're the only thing open, right? There's nothing, and so people are coming down and they're walking and we've got really great foot traffic, and we want to just continue that. I think the biggest thing for people downtown is, again, the I don't need them to be coming down just to come to my store. I want them to already be down here and to be able to swing in. And so I think having more stores down here is the big key. And I honestly think that having more antique and vintage stores downtown is a huge thing, right? You think about a lot of these markets that are big. I'm going to go antiquing, or I'm going to go look at all these places. People are looking for more than one store. If there's more than one store downtown, and so that's something that we're really focused on now, is trying to figure out what's next for us. We filled up our store really quick. I mean, we the way our business model works was to have vendors, and it filled up really, really quick. And so we're honestly looking at what's our next move, what's our next step downtown, and how can we repeat what we did and do that in another space.
I mean, anytime a new building, I mean, I think I've walked through the majority of the buildings that are sitting for sale.
Yep.
And every time something new comes on, I try to go walk through it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because it's like I know exactly what I would want to do in a building today, but it's hard to if you don't know what's available, it's kind of hard to think about, like, man, what could that be? Is it something that we're doing? Is it something like friends that are interested in that? Like,
Right.
hey, you should go look at this. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I really want there to be more.
Yeah.
I when you guys opened, I was so happy.
Right.
It's like a block away, so it's
Right.
fun to go walk over and see you sometimes in the middle of my day. But we just need more. We need more people to keep showing up and keep doing that thing.
And I think, to your point of walking through buildings and seeing them, there are buildings. Our building's a prime example. When I was looking for buildings, everybody was like, "Well, that building's too rough. That building's too rough. Well, yeah. If somebody wanted to put in, 10 offices and use it as their corporate location, yeah, it's too rough. But being able to go through them and look at them, I was able to go, yeah, well, this will work for us.
Yeah.
We can make this work.
Yeah.
And so there are other buildings downtown that I look at that have been the same way. Like, they've been on the market for a long time. We've walked through them, and somebody said, well, it's a lot of work to bring that to where it needs to be. And I walked through just a building this last week and said, that's not too much work for me.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah, it depends on what you need it to be.
100%.
Right? If it's going to
100%.
be, if it's going to be a shiny new dental clinic or something,
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe it is too much work.
Exactly.
But if it has something that has like a fun vintage vibe, and
Yep.
you can really lean into the uniqueness of a building,
Yeah.
there's, I think, a lot of really cool things. A lot of really cool things that could happen.
I think people get sick of me telling the history of my building when they walk in.
Oh,
Probably not. But that's all I want to talk
Yeah.
about. I just want to show them. I have a TV on the wall that's got all the pictures.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's look at all the pictures.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it was. And they're like, I just want to go buy something.
We have a little history wall upstairs. When we bought this, there were like photos and like all this stuff in the basement that was just
Right.
like sitting on the ground collecting dust.
Yeah.
And we got it all cleaned up, and we bought a couple new frames because stuff was pretty ratty.
Right.
And we have like a fun little history
Yeah,
wall.
yeah.
And I think I've said it here before, but we just feel like almost like a steward.
Yeah, yeah.
This building is now 125 years old.
Right.
Which is so young in comparison
compared to my
yours.
beast down the street. Yeah.
But like, there are going to be more people that own this building, after us, and how can we just kind of steward it and make sure that we're, just doing a good job for our downtown and for this building, because somebody's going to come behind us and they'll need it to be. St. Cloud will need this building to continue to be here and play a role in the economy and in kind of the culture and ethos of our downtown.
Yeah.
And that's true of every building.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could snap your fingers and bring one kind of business downtown that currently isn't here, what would you bring?
I think the easy answer right now, because I want downtown to succeed, is ice cream. Hopefully that gets itself sorted out. You know what I mean? Because of the Children's Museum. And, I think that's the easy answer. The harder answer is, I don't even care what the businesses are. I think they need to be small, owner-occupied. It needs to be... So I grew up in a small town, and you did business with people, not businesses, right? Like, so I want people... I don't even care if people know the name of my store, but if they know my first name, that's what I want, right? Let's go to Chad's store. Let's go to Guy's store. Let's go... You know what I mean? That's what I want for downtown, and I think that's how we get there, because it gives... That's the feel people are looking for downtown. So that would be my longer answer.
I want a greasy spoon.
Yes.
I think like a diner, something that's open late, or like that you know,
that there's a line out the door on
Yeah.
a Sunday morning, and
Yeah.
college kids,
Yeah.
that need to get in and get their eggs, and
I think that would be so fun. In general, for a town of our size, we don't have like tons of good breakfast,
Right,
you know?
right.
So I think something that was like just a greasy spoon.
Just had this conversation with somebody. So I came to St. Cloud in 1999, and I was going to the tech college. I was living on the south side. I remember one morning being at a class at the tech college. It was an early morning class, and I was low and I was bumming, and I mean, full disclosure, mental health is something I've struggled with my whole life. And so it was at that point, I was like, I just need some sort of reconnect or something. And I went to the east side of St. Cloud. You've been in St. Cloud a while, right?
Yep.
So
Basically my whole life.
there was a place over there by the Country Hearth called, was it called Alvy's? I think it was this little
yeah.
greasy spoon. I mean, and it was, I walked in, it had a counter. I sat down at the counter, right up at the counter, and this lady turns around and says, "Hey, honey, how are you? What can I get you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is it. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there." It was like a Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
I went there like every week until I graduated from college.
Yeah.
And I think we need that. I would love that downtown.
When an old server says "Hi, honey,"
Yeah,
there
it's
is something that is like there's something that is so endearing. I think we're not supposed to do stuff like
Right, but you're so comfortable. You're just like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just something that's like so sweet about it. Like
Yeah.
you're at her house. You know,
Right.
like she was welcoming you in, and
Yeah.
I think that's really, really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk about mental health on this podcast, but like, is there anything that you want to share about like how have you navigated that?
Yeah.
As you've jumped into this big adventure downtown, and like,
Right.
how do you navigate some of those mental health things in relationship to entrepreneurship and taking risks and
Yeah, I think it actually, I mean, taking this risk has actually helped, because I look back on 25 years in banking and navigating that with, I have anxiety and depression, and I've had it forever, and it goes up and down. It gets worse and better. And so navigating that over the last 25 years of my career, and then getting to a point of saying, hey, these stressors of this job that really, really bump up against my anxiety and depression, as we get older, I'm like, it's not worth it. I want to chase myself up that ladder. But what I learned is that I really love building relationships with people, and I really love connecting people, and that's what my career was for a really long time. And then when that changed and really got into a sales-driven atmosphere, that bumps up hardcore against all of that stuff. And so just sitting at home, and my partner Samantha was, I said, you know what I want to do someday? This is 2.5 years. You know what I want to do someday? I just want to go to a little store downtown that I own, and I want to sell vintage and antiques, and I just want to talk to people, and I just want to visit. I don't want it to be pressure. I don't want to sell anything, She said, go do that. And there's a relief in that, and I'm sure maybe for you, you've seen that too, is, boy, working 40 hours a week at a corporate job is tough. Working 70 hours a week at a store that you own isn't tough. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it is tough, but you know what I mean?
It's a different thing for sure.
It feels a lot
Yeah.
different. And so, ironically, working more, working harder, but having some more control really helps with the mental health side of things. And it doesn't mean that it's still not a struggle.
For sure.
I mean, there are days that, you have to just kind of get through. But, I mean, I would say, as far as the mental health side of it goes, my biggest thing is that I don't ever want to ignore it. I don't want to be afraid to tell people about it. And because I don't, like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be okay every day. You know what I mean? And find the help that you need. Don't shy away from it. I think that's something that happens with, especially males in our age group, is they try to ignore it. And man, ignoring things doesn't help.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're surrounded by people that like know you and understand you, and can support you when.
Yeah.
I mean, even in this, like, in the entrepreneurship journey, there are so many really, really good days, and then there are really hard days. And, from my side of the table, I have these two business partners that I do everything with,
Right.
in Ryan and Taylor, and that I get to when the days are really, really good, I get to rejoice with them. That is fun.
Yeah.
Shared joy is better than singular joy.
Right.
Yeah. And shared sorrow is easier than,
Yeah.
insulated or, insular sorrow. And so then, because of just the how our business is structured, like I kind of have that built in. And for you, how do you, is that Sam? Like, how do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Sam right now, right? And then it's also just surrounding myself with the friends that I've had for a really long time that are always going to be in your corner. You've got those handful of people that are really always going to be there for you.
Yeah.
And I've got a handful of those, and a lot of them are the ones where maybe you don't talk all the time, but they're there. They've always got your back.
Yeah.
And then I do believe as we scale up what we're trying to do downtown and our next steps, I have realized I have some really good mentors. I have some really good people that want to support what we're doing.
Yeah.
Having them be along on that journey now more, because I can scale up what I'm doing, but I still need the support. I need to be able to lean back on somebody and say, hey, you've done this before. You've done things like this before. You've been incredibly successful. What am I seeing or not seeing?
There's an author named C.S. Lewis. Are you familiar with C.S. Lewis?
Yep.
He has a book called The Four Loves. The premise of the book is that in Greek, there are 4 different words for love. And in English, there's just one word for love. So when you say like, I love my wife and I love a grilled steak on the patio.
Right.
Like we use the same word, but like they don't mean the same thing. Like I love my best friend. Like they're all like different kinds of things. And in English we just have this one word. And so he kind of helps the nature of the book is to help like understand these different kinds of love.
Sure.
And because of these 4 different words. And in there he talks about friendship, and he talks about the difference between a comrade and a friend.
Okay.
And it's not that a friend, you necessarily see a friend all the time. It doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that they're in your life necessarily a lot, because there are friends that have to move for different things. But like this deep, true friendship stands in contrast to a comrade. And this is I'm not necessarily saying this is exactly right, but I kind of like Lewis's thing here. A comrade is something that you have a mutual. You share an environment with, right? We are on the soccer team together.
Right.
We're roommates in college.
Yeah.
Our cubicles are next to each other.
Yep.
There are those kinds of things. And you can have really incredible relationships with those people.
Right.
But it's a comrade that when that thing goes away.
Yeah.
When the season is done, you don't necessarily stay connected. When you move on from that job or you move into a new house with a new roommate, and then when you see that person, this is kind of the litmus test. When you see that person, if the only thing, because it's really fun, like someone who was a comrade that you had a really fun relationship with.
Yeah, I have lists of those people. Yeah,
you hug them and you're so excited to see them, and the little litmus test for if that person was a friend or a comrade is the only thing you have to talk about the thing that you shared together.
Yeah.
Where like once you get done talking about the soccer games and like the practices and how fun high school was, you kind of run out.
Right.
And it's not that when you run into a friend, like a dear, true friend, it's not that you don't talk about that thing, but you don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
If you never talked about the shared activity, you're going to talk about how are your kids? Oh, how's your mom? Like there's a different level of conversation.
Yep.
And again, we need both of them. I don't know about you, but I don't have unlimited capacity for this like deep, deep, deep friendship thing.
Right.
But I'm really thankful that there are these people in my life who show up in this kind of like comrade role for this season. Man, we're going to spend a lot of time together and it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
And then it's okay when things shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I had this huge smile on my face because I'm thinking about one person, right? So my buddy Joe Bai, who works in St. Joe, works at Century Bank, he was that comrade. We met as those comrades, and this is probably 25 years ago, right? We met as comrades, and he is my like super solid friend now. And so we had that. Like we still talk about that crazy stuff we did at TCF Bank back in the day, and then made our way to yeah, he is that true friend,
Yeah.
you know, and it's great. It's
That's
great
cool.
to have that. And you're right. And then I can think about all those people along the way that were just those comrades that
Yeah.
I see. I've had a couple of them from one of the credit unions I worked at here in town stop by the store. And it's just so nice to see them. You know,
Yeah.
it's just so great to
Yeah.
connect with them and then send them on their way.
I read that book, Four Loves, as I was like maybe even in my senior year of college.
Okay.
And it was a really unique thing because when you're in the throes of college, this is the best thing ever. These are all my best friends, and like this deep, incredible bond that we have with all these people. It's never going to change. And it was actually this like really nice like wake up, you know, like, and it was like, oh, when this thing ends, like it's okay that some
Right.
of these people, like I don't have the capacity to be calling all of these people all the time.
Right.
So it was a unique thing as I was heading to commencement, on my way to commencement, just kind of trying to assess like who are the
Yeah.
people here that are like much deeper than that, who will
Yeah.
stay. And there are a couple, you know, a very small handful from those college days who still today, like I am deeply connected to.
Right.
And we don't have to talk about college. We can talk about like what's actually happening in our lives. And there's lots of really fun comrades who we share college together. And when we see each other, it's really, really fun and really sweet. But
It makes me think about, I do a lot of theater through Great Theater. It makes
Yeah.
me think about when you're in a show with somebody.
best friends.
Best friends,
Yeah.
right? And then it makes me think about, and I know you can relate to this, like it makes me think about the week that my kids go to Camp Lebanon and they come back and they're just crushed because camp's over for
Yeah.
the week, right? And you're like, those, like they were best friends.
Yep.
They're your best friends. And so, and then two of my kids go and they're there all summer. Like they work there all summer, and the connections they make are real, but it's that you have to be able to understand what that
Yeah.
level of connection is.
Yeah, absolutely. I met my wife at Camp Lebanon.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a wonderful place to meet.
And I don't think that's an uncommon thing, right?
No.
It happens all the time at camp, you know?
the week that I showed up at camp, the summer that I met Cassie, when I showed up, I was like, I want to stay really focused on my job. I was single. I don't want to be thinking about like
Right.
meeting somebody. And a big piece of it was like having like being a little bit of a contrarian. It's like, everybody in my life, they're married to their camp sweetheart. I was like, I think I just want a different story.
Right.
And then there was
you
this
go.
cute girl
Then it happens.
who was
Then it
hanging out there.
happens.
And now we're married 15 years. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
well, cool. Chad, really fun to spend some time chatting with you. I'm really thankful for what you're doing downtown. I think your store is really, really cool. I hope everybody comes and checks it out and buys something cool and old that they once owned.
Yeah.
You can sell it to them again. That would
Absolutely.
be really fun. We close every podcast with an unpaid ad. Is there someone, something, some idea that you think deserves a little shout out today?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
I have a good one.
Okay.
So, this fall I'm going to be entering my 13th or 14th season of announcing public address announcer for St. Cloud State volleyball.
That's really fun.
And I've done volleyball at St. Cloud State, basketball at St. Cloud State. I did football before the football team was gone. I would encourage people, if you have never had the experience of watching college volleyball, you need to go.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And St. Cloud State is real good.
Cool.
Yeah. We're a Division II squad that's in the top 10 of the country almost the whole year. And we're great. It's tons of fun. It's a fast-moving atmosphere. I love it. If I could announce it until I'm in my 70s, I will.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
I love that. In honor of vintage clothes,
Yes.
my unpaid ad for the day is an online creator named the Iron Snail.
Okay.
Have you ever seen
No.
the Iron Snail?
No.
There was a watch curator and kind of online content guy that I really, really liked, and he was kind of the sidekick to this watch guy, but he was by far the best part of the show, was the sidekick by far.
Okay.
And then I don't know if they had a falling out or whatever, but he left that company and then he started his own thing, which is, he talks about watches a little bit, but he really loves vintage clothing.
Okay.
And I'm not a vintage clothing guy. I wear the exact same thing every single day.
Right.
Yeah, and my closet is full of the exact same shirt and the exact same pair of pants, whatever. So,
Yeah.
But I love the idea of vintage clothing. I love the idea that like that thing that was made in the 40s,
Yep.
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Like that stuff is much, much better quality. I think it's so fun. And he does these awesome like comparison videos. He's like, here's a Levi's jacket that was built, you know, in created in 1960, and then here's the exact jacket today.
Yep.
And he just goes through all the differences,
Yeah.
things that they did, and he's talking about the different kinds of denim and short weave and long weave, and again,
Selvage. Don't forget about selvage denim.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really fun. So you should go check out
Yeah,
Iron
for
Snail.
sure. That sounds great.
His videos are also like really well done, really, really well
That's
done,
good.
and the content is so fun. So go check out the Iron Snail.
That's awesome. Cool.
Awesome, Chad. Really fun to be with you today. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks.